You felt he had feminine traits. I mean, if I were a guy, that would freeze me up.
This is your vows to me.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Told you guys about Miles and Karen and whether we should give Karen a pass because of her behavior on Married at First Sight. Are we being too harsh as an audience on Karen? Let's talk about it and let's review from episode 1 right up to episode 13 even, I should say. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Please click on the bell button for a notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Alright, cool. So I think this is something that I've been kind of seeing some tidbits in my comment section. I've had people actually as well message me on either Insta, email, saying, you know, am I being a bit too harsh on Karen? Some people think I'm doing the most because I've done 4 or 5 videos on her. You know, and some people have actually, it's not actually one person actually, quite a few people have actually put me towards this Reddit thread where it spoke about there being an equality in blame when it comes to the relationship between Miles and Karen. And I think that's what's inspired this particular video, because I really wanted to defend the point as to why maybe we as an audience have been quite harsh with Karen. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. This channel here, you know, it caters to black people. So I'm going to be very frank with you. Yes, I'm going to do more videos on Karen and Miles and Woody and Amani because they're black. I'm just going to be real with you. I know my audience. I understand how, as black people, we want to see black people because I want to see black people on my screen. And so I'm discussing their issues more than I would discuss maybe Christina and Henry. Because best believe, I got problems with Christina. And I've stated this as well about Henry's lack of ability to be able to talk and stuff like that. That's also been a frustration. You see my commentary about about Brett and Olivia, and you've seen how I've dished it on both sides because both parties really were to blame. And that's a debate in itself of whether who's right, who's wrong, who's done more to blame, who's not more to blame. But in the Miles and Karen situation, I think a lot of us who are the audience, and I want to say for myself specifically, the behaviors that I saw with Karen for me were concerning because we had called this out from the very jump. I think it's
I watched all his little Instagram stories. He seems very emotional. Like, this is my real life, and it's like,
episode 2 where she makes a comment towards Miles stating that she feels that no, she's crying and she's sobbing, and we're not talking about the crying at the pulpit, we are talking about crying in your bedroom amongst your bridesmaids, saying you had seen Miles on Instagram and he's too emotional, he's not your type. So forgive us as the audience if we start off on the front foot of wondering whether you're gonna like Miles or not. Because
I know who he is, I know what he does, and he's not really my type. I'm not gonna lie.
You've got a foothold and you've got a starting block of understanding this person already. And from what you've seen on Instagram, you're not too happy. Again, this is not a problem. This is how you feel. And I think as an audience, we can rock with that. Our problem was that as we're watching it throughout the course of the episodes and the weeks that have gone by in real time in real life, the behaviors that we have shown from Karen towards Miles have been, I don't want to say cruel, but what I would say is a little bit cold. And we know why she is that way because we called it out from the very early jump when she mentioned that she had been in a relationship where the boyfriend had hurt her.
Something, I think I'm afraid of someone hurting me.
After 4 years cheating on her and having a baby, we mentioned the fact that potentially this could be a family issue as well. The stiff upper lip by her mother that was portrayed, the fact that her father wasn't really as much on the cameras, we can understand that. Again, that's his choice, we're not cussing about that. But we said there's some type of dynamic, some type of environment that's causing Karen to be defensive in her approach. Now, there's nothing wrong with you being slow in the way you move in relationships. Look, if it's an honest review and it's really about relationships and it's really about breaking down why people behave the way they behave, and it's not a witch hunt, We're going to discuss why you are moving the way you're moving.
And express herself and how she's feeling sometimes. And so
I just met you.
Okay, no you
She did.
didn't. No you didn't. Believe it or not, you're no longer strangers.
All right, Karen was talking about moving slow. Sis, slow don't mean I can't compliment you. Slow mean I can't touch you. Slow don't mean that I make little snide little jokes about you. Being slow isn't those problems with intimacy, which you have said. Karen herself has said she has problems
With men, I do. Like, I move pretty slow. So I appreciate you being patient and understanding, and I hope that
with. Slow isn't me questioning your masculinity. Do you understand? So when we're discussing Karen, this is not a witch hunt. I want to make it very, very clear. No. Especially on this channel, I want to highlight behaviors, not only for Karen to see, but for the rest of us to see. Because even me, I see myself in both Karen and I see myself in Miles. I'll give an instance. For Miles, I see myself in him. Why? Because a failure to be able to discuss how you truly need something from somebody was how I am at points sometimes. I'm a people pleaser. I want to please everybody. You understand? But there's a part of me that also goes, listen, if you try me, everybody's getting did it. That's a part of me. So unlike Miles, where he doesn't have that necessary, I would say, tenacity or that little bit of a, I call it the dark edge where it can come out. Yeah, he's just a really nice guy. He's just one of those, you know, those people that you meet and are just really nice, and you always wonder to yourself, how can that person be so nice? Like, I try to be that way, but it's not me. It's him. Okay? And I think for a lot of us, we see the genuinity of Miles, and it's frustrating to see a woman like Karen who's not appreciating the genuinity of Miles, because there are many women out there that want a genuine nice guy. They're tired of dealing with these smucks and these badass guys, and to see a nice, decent gentleman. And this has got nothing to do with the fact that I'm a male looking from a male perspective. If you followed me on this channel long enough, you know I've got smoke for everybody. Everybody can get smoke. In fact, my smoke gets me into trouble. I call out men and I call out women. And it gets me into trouble because the men don't follow this channel. The reason I don't follow this channel is because when I call out men don't like to be called out on their foolish behaviors. But I will call it out. I will call it out because it's the truth. And it has to be said. If we're going to have healthy, we're going to have successful relationships, we've got to call stuff out. Since if you follow this channel, we spoke about Zach. We spoke about Zach from last season. We spoke about Luke from the season before that as well. We called them both out. We spoke about Michael even from last season. We called out Brandon. We called out Taylor for the behaviors that they were displaying. Because the behaviors they were displaying were toxic, were unhealthy, and not conducive to a longevity of a relationship, nor a marriage. We spoke about this. We called them out. This season, we've even called out the experts personally on a video, whereas beforehand I've actually said it to you guys that in passing, I don't like the way some of the experts were behaving. This season we said we're going to do video on them. We'll show them, you know what I'm saying? So understand that obviously, like, when we're coming for Karen, it's not, there are people out there that are going to witch hunt Karen. That is TV. Unfortunately, there are people out there who don't care about making sure we talk about relationships in a way that is conducive to learning. But we are here at Little Black Book to try and teach you how to learn from these situations. Because the moment I showcase Karen's behavior, we should all be able to say, okay, do you know what, is that me? Because if it's me, I need to identify myself and say, oh, that's the behavior I do. Okay, I need to change that. You know what I'm saying? Now, have we been a little bit more harsher on Karen than we have on Miles? No, I don't think we have. I think we've been especially on this channel, we've been very generous. We've just called out what needed to be called out and said, this behavior is a bit odd. Okay, why is she doing this? My concern is the why. I want to deal with the root issue of the reason why somebody is behaving the way they're behaving. I have that opportunity to do so because I am not in that relationship. When you're in a relationship, it can be very hard to see it from a why do you do what you do. But from an outside perspective, I've got no choice but to ask, why do you do what you do? Because the thing doesn't directly affect me. I've got ample time to review, videotape, see it over and over and over again and say, okay, Karen's behavior is like this. Okay, and so for a lot of us watching, especially black people, we get frustrated with Karen's behavior. We're like, hold on a minute, you're talking about slow but you can't compliment. You talk about slow but you can't touch.
I'm not the person that's gonna like walk in the room and be like, damn boy, like you look good today.
You talk about slow, you've kissed, but you can't talk about intimacy. You talk about slow, but you say, when we get to intimacy, we'll discuss it. When he says, obviously, so how do we get to that point? You say, we'll discuss it when we get there. Listen, these things, and I could go on and on and on. There are so many examples, and I'm going to break it down, and we're going to go through why I feel like Karen has got so much stick this season, just like Michael got stick last season, just like Taylor got stick last season, just like Brandon got stick last season. We don't have to wait for you to throw a chair, or we have to wait for you to exit a scene in a very raunchous and aggressive manner before we call you out on your behavior. We can call it out through the process of the season. There should be no issue about that. What I'm seeing though is that sometimes there's an angle where people are trying to defend Karen from it's patriarchy. No, if you're a bad behaving human being, you're a bad behaving human being. I'm sorry, like, it's what it is. Like, we gotta call you on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta call you on it. Like, it is what it is. And so when I'm gonna give an overall summary and go into the actual review. Yes, I can see that Miles lacked an ability in the beginning, because it's clear. It is shown there. You see. I read the Reddit thread and I was interested. I really did like the how she laid it out, and I can always appreciate when someone comes with a different opinion, because I think it's good. It gives us opportunity to talk. And she spoke about how Miles, has an inability to state what he needs, and Karen kept on saying how he should state what he needs, and I agreed. In the very beginning, did we not say it? We were concerned about the mummy boy situation, right? Because Karen's already said about the masculinity. We said, if the mummy boy situation comes in, this is going to question the masculinity even furthermore.
Chronic mama's boy that you hear about, no, he's not like that.
I mean, it's not like he can't take care of himself.
And you don't call his mom every day.
Yes, he does.
Okay. That's not a good thing.
Right? We spoke about the fact that Miles didn't speak up, and Pastor Carl had to call him out on the fact he wouldn't say it, and the fact he couldn't say his needs. He didn't understand what his needs were. And I said to you guys, you must know your needs versus your wants, because what your want is, it's not a guarantee. What your need is what has to happen in order to make the relationship work. And I said, the fact that Miles didn't know that, I said, that's problematic in itself, right? Which is fine, right? Because Pastor Carl's called him out, and we can see that true. It's only the next episode. It's only the next episode, yeah, that Miles is sitting down in front of Karen telling him, listen, I like compliments. Now, and when I read the Reddit review, it said, Miles is very vague. I don't know how specific you want it to be. Do you want me to tell you what compliment I want?
It's been 2 weeks of marriage, I've been real nice and patient for a nice little kiss, Not just one.
Wow.
No, I just need to tell you, listen, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, I like compliments. I'm a person that has a words of affirmation person. This was also said, so this was stated that I like words of affirmation. You see what I'm saying? Like, people are asking for, him to lay it out, and he did lay it out. He spoke several times. I don't know whether you like me or not, because you don't state it. We have several evidence, and I'm going to bring them all out. Me, I don't come and just talk about it. I will bring all the evidence.
I think he's very handsome.
Don't tell me that, girl. Thank you.
Stop it.
All right. Hey, see, compliment.
So we need to discuss these things, because these things are forming a foundation. These are early wounds which won't be forgotten. You see, we can do things now and people can forgive us, but the point of the matter is they can become wounds and scars, right? And lasting memories where people might not forget whatever happened. And this could become an issue 10 years down the line, because the person hasn't truly forgiven you, but they had to let it go because they wanted to let the relationship flow on. They're addressing these issues, you know what I'm saying? So no one's saying that Miles is without fault here. But to equate Miles and Karen in terms of their behavior, ludicrous. And I think if you're really unbiased, you just call it as it is, bro. You understand? You call it as it is. If someone's got intimacy problems, it is on them to work with the person that they're with, to say, hey, I've got intimacy problems. Can we help? Let's deal with this. Let's see how we can tackle this. Not just be patient, but how do we address this going forward? That's maturity. You see, if we're talking about, and again, the amount of times that's been spoken about, Miles needs to be more mature. He's 26 from Karen's side. Age ain't nothing but a number. You know what I'm saying? Like, maturity isn't age. Maturity is how you handle situations. And this just lets me know that Karen isn't that much more mature than Miles. She didn't communicate certain things, and we'll address that in the review too. So, having said all of those kind of things, one, that sounded like a rant, and it was a rant because I was just, you know what? Like, I never tried to come at someone sideways. You understand? But you're presenting me information, and consistently the information is saying the exact same thing. Do you know what I'm saying? That's not to say that behind the scenes things are not getting better. You know what I'm saying? But every time we see the person on camera, they're saying this particular thing. Do you feel what I'm saying? Alright, let's get into the review. Let me break some things down.
Relationship. He had a child with someone.
Number one, this is where the premise starts from. Before we even got to the point of episode, whatever it was, 7, I think, where she revealed that she had been hurt. We already knew that. We could see the behavior that she was displaying towards Mal, which was a bit more cold, very slow to affection, didn't want to show much affection. We knew that something wasn't quite right. So we were saying that, okay, from very early, and many of you who followed me, I said it from very early, I didn't like the way that she was behaving, right? And I didn't like that because it wasn't showing a loving nature, it wasn't affectionate towards Miles, right? And Miles is a great safe space. He's not aggressive, he's not, he's respectful, these are her words. He's got a loving nature, that's his sister's words, and so therefore he's protective, that's his dad's words, towards her. So these qualities have been shown by him, right? Karen knows this. And am I saying that Karen sees that and then should automatically give him all the trust? No. What we are saying is this, that the fact of the matter is we could see that the reason why Karen couldn't behave accordingly in order to be able to give the affection back to Miles that he was requiring is not just because of a love language, it's because of pain. And when you're hurt, what you tend to do is be defensive. Why? Because you don't get hurt again. Did she not experience it past the cow? Right? So we're at 7 episodes in. We already knew this from day 1. Because of the way that she was looking at the masculinity. You see, I keep saying it, you cannot see correctly if your lenses are broken. You have a broken ideology and a broken way of perceiving information. And so until someone feeds you or you feed yourself correct information to rectify the broken lens, you will see things in an askew way. For instance, when I was younger, I really liked the feisty girls. You know why? Because I liked a little bit of an argument. I liked the back and forth. I liked the energy that we give each other. Why? Because what it was doing for me was that when we made up, it made me feel like the person truly desired and wanted me. That's toxic. I'm sorry to say it, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think it's normal. It's toxic. To see it in that way that you want, as much as it seems naive or seems innocent, that you'd want to be somebody who maybe not, you might not say it as argumentative, but you want a bit of bite, yeah? But the truth of the matter is, a lot of times you want someone that's going to argue with you. You want someone that's going to give you a bit of a, right? You want that rather, and listen, grown-ass men who've matured, don't understand themselves, want peace. We don't want war, you know, so we don't want war, we want peace. So, to desire a woman to desire a man that gives them that fight, okay, actually describes your toxicity. Yeah, and I believe all of us as human beings have got some level of toxicity within ourselves.
He said that he didn't feel like I was trying in this relationship. And he even told me, like, if decision day was today, I would choose not to be married because I don't.
So that's without question. But when it starts to show up in our choices and our preferences and the way that we deal with our other partners, then you're going to start to really see how the toxicity is really playing out in your life, okay? So for us, I saw Karen coming from a hurt perspective. It was then rectified in episode, I believe, 7 or so, where she explained that she was feeling scared to move forward or scared to move at a pace because she was hurt and didn't want to be hurt again. Now, here's the thing. The psychology of this is that when someone's been hurt and doesn't want to be hurt again, what do? You become defensive, and that defense can also become offensive. That defensiveness is what's bled into, I believe, the question of masculinity, the question around, whether Miles is really a genuine nice guy, and this act is just an act all the way through. It's also the reason why she suffers with the affection, because she already said until she trusts a person, she can't give that person that affection. Okay, and so the hurt and the pain that she suffered in the past, coming into this relationship, whether it be just a boyfriend or whether it was also as well parents that have been involved or whatever, family environment that she's experienced, it's contributed towards the way that she perceives Miles' behavior and then sends back to him, right? So that pain is important to understand. We're not giving Karen a hard time, we're explaining the behavior. Number 2, this led to her consistently questioning the masculinity. Now, let's take the situation for the depression thing out of the order, because she's explained that on a interview about the Married at First Sight. She explained about the fact that, you know, that's not what she meant, and we can rock with that. We can say, okay, look, there's room to maneuver here. But on more than one occasion, you question his masculinity. From the very first episode, the second episode, you question the masculinity by seeing.
I watched all his little Instagram stories. He seems very emotional. Like, this is my real life. And it's like...
She's used to a traditional masculinity, right? I'll ask the question, what is a traditional masculinity? You know, because if you're saying that a traditional masculinity wouldn't explain their feelings, because remember she said later on in the shopping that I'm not used to a man. Listen to what I'm going to say to you very clearly. You have to hear the words and what they're meaning, and look at the things that are not said. This is where I can really agree with her, in the sense of, you know, some of her frustrations are coming out now, right? And that's fair enough. We can understand that. You know, the way that, you know, Miles was frustrated, even in that scene at the shopping mall.
Like, I've never met a guy so, like, open.
With his feelings?
Yeah.
How'd it make you feel?
It throws me off.
Huh?
When she began to say about it threw her off, his facial expressions are... Miles is a person who wears his heart on his sleeve. He cannot hide how he feels. The very feeling that he's feeling goes on his...
Like, I've never met a guy so, like, open.
With his feelings?
Yeah.
How'd it make you feel?
It throws me off.
Face, right? And so you see the strength, and you see the excitement begin to fade from his face as Karen begins to speak about how she's thrown off by the emotive man. To which then he goes to explain, do you think that emotional intelligence and masculinity can go together?
Pretty emotionally intelligent person, you know, pretty aware. And so curious, like, how do you feel like those things can match? Emotional intelligence and then, like, masculinity.
Again, Karen takes her time to answer and then says, yes, it can. But by what you said, it seems like you were questioning whether his emotional intelligence counted, right? Or maybe he was too emotional for you. Listen, we've been screaming, and I say we, as in, like, women have been screaming. They want men to be talkative, to be more emotional, to be more open about how they feel. But you see, toxic masculinity, or patriarchy, if you want to call it, affects both men and women. It doesn't just affect the men. It affects how women see masculinity in general as well. So therefore, we call that out and say, hey, actually, there's a toxic masculinity here, because later on we see Miles say she's consistently questioned my masculinity. So this is not something that we've made up. She's questioning the masculinity.
Use of what masculinity means, and whether or not she feels that I match up to that box or that standard around what masculinity looks like. At first,
do you understand? She's questioning masculinity consistently throughout the season. That will rile people up. Why should look, no one questions Bennett's masculinity. Deep it, no one questions Bennett's masculinity. Why? Because he's white. Yeah, because obviously if he was black, we'd question it, because we have a subset standard of what we call masculinity. But no one's questioning Bennett's masculinity. That lets you know, again, how patriarchy and how colorism and how racism affects us as black people in terms of our system and how we even look at masculinity. So when something's not in alignment with something and it's seemingly askew, we call it out and say, this is probably toxic masculinity, because what you're asking for right now in this male that you're looking for is not masculinity, it's toxic. Because it lacks an ability to be able to supply and serve the individual person for who it's for. Him displaying or talking about his emotion is to serve not just himself, but the relationship. So you know where he stands. You were saying that he weren't communicating, but when he's explaining his emotions, he's too emotional. So where's the safe space? There is no safe space for the man to be able to express how he truly feels. So I'm not saying that at points he doesn't get to explain that. I'm just saying that if you consistently kill the emotional space and square for him to be able to explain things, you kill the safe space. This is not just for Karen, it's for us as individuals as well, in relationships, to understand and to learn.